MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey! Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is not an 8-hour flight, but you are welcome at any time to do high knees in the aisle. The captain has turned the seatbelt light off, and we encourage you to keep your body in tip-top shape.
Sit down, Russ. Sit down.
2 hours of film, 1 hour of high knees, 2 hours of treatment, 1 hour of elbow or shoulder rotations, a nap, and another hour of film. Did you watch the video of Russ talking about it?
Yeah.
Can I say something about the video of Russ talking about it? I thought he came off as pretty likable in that video, even though he's describing a very annoying thing.
I would imagine he was asked what he did on the flight, right? He didn't impromptu bring it up, I would hope.
Guys, before we get started, I don't know. Yeah, I guess he would.
It could just be as simple as like, what'd you do on the flight?
Could be. Yeah, it'd be a good question. Astute question by somebody. I wouldn't particularly care what he did, but
well, part of it, right? He's been hurt. Like, are you worried about your hamstring on the long flight? What if that's just a kind of basic question?
Could be. Again, I would give that credit for a very specific question to whoever did that. Yeah, I'll give him credit.
I thought the answer was pretty douchey. Not you're right. The execution, like his actual talking, he was kind of smiling in a good mood. Yeah. To me, it's more about like there's like an unspoken thing, I think, with the quarterbacks and the coaches. Coaches don't constantly speak about what time they're getting up because no one really wants to hear
how many hours of film they watch.
Yeah, I think most of them are almost like there's an insecurity about being careful about not speaking about it. I think quarterbacks kind of like that too. Like, we don't truly know what a quarterback's week looks like, but we kind of know, like, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, some of these guys do some crazy shit, but we never really hear them like, remember when the dude that retired from the Saints, who then became their play-by-play guy, the offensive lineman, I think Striff or whatever, and he was like crying, and he's like, when we would send Drew Brees Thai food on Thursday nights because we were all headed home and he was banging out the film.
But I think even then, if you even know the time of it, you don't really know what is it. There's different ways to watch film. You could just sit and watch. That's not usually what watching film is considered. Like, watching film is considered like, quote unquote, grinding the tape, right? Watching the same play over and over and over and over
and taking notes how you're going to use.
Yeah, and then maybe taking shadow snaps like Breeze. Like, that's watching the tape,
Russell takes shadow snaps too.
Russell does take shadow snaps. That's true. I think, what are the insecurities? One of the insecurities, like, you don't want to say that you don't want to put a number on all the film you watch and then get beat. And it's like, dude, you must be an idiot. You just watched 30 hours of film and you got beat by 20. That's not good.
I think it's just one of those things that comes along with it. Like, part of being a head coach or being a quarterback, you get paid more money to work longer. It's like in your profession with when you're calling a game. I think sometimes there's one bald guy who annoys the shit out of me. Sean McDonough, who loves showing off his, like, we get it, Sean. You wrote all the players on your big board. You work hard. Like, yeah, it's part of the deal.
Oh, you mean the fact that he's holding his board?
But not just holding it. Like, I think he likes it to be seen.
It's possible. I mean, I will say there's the possibility that a play happens while you're standing there and you've got a quick reference, right? You remember, like, when Buck and Aikman were doing their stand-up and then the Seahawks or the Broncos went for it on fourth down and they weren't. Part of that was they were not actually, sometimes when you're standing up, you're not looking at the field, which is the case in that Seattle booth, from what I've been told.
Part of having the number one job, whether the CEO, the head coach, the Joe Buck, like, it's assumed that you're grinding, working hard, and like, no, that's what's the money's for. And then it's for you to just get the job done, right?
Yeah, I give a lot.
It doesn't matter what time the CEO of Wells Fargo actually gets in or leaves, as long as the company's thriving, right? It's expected that he's working hard.
I give a lot of credit to the guy that makes it look easy because they've worked so hard, right? As opposed to telling me how hard they've worked.
Yeah. I just think, like, I don't remember just like the crew of the elite guys, Tom, Peyton, and Drew Brees. Let's put them in the umbrella. Even Rodgers, like, I don't know nothing about Rodgers' work habits. I think it's pretty clear, like, he's not just going through the motions, like, right? To me, the bigger issue would be this is the NFL, right? I mean, if you're just working a union job, most people clock in, clock out. Most guys on the team, right? The starting right guard might be a random guy making $2 million. But I bet, what if there's a chance, like, this guy's one of the hardest workers on our team? No one knows. Like Patrick Surtain. Like, what if he's just like, this guy's a fucking grinder? But no one, it's just, we're all kind of grinding. Like, Russell, you're around a bunch of grinders. And then you kind of suck and you're pumping your chest. It's cheeseball levels to the highest form. And it's also like, I'm kind of superior in a way, even though I don't think thinks he's doing it.
What if he's just sharing the wealth? Like, here's everything I've learned over my career, and I want other people to know. All you high school kids out there, 8-hour bus ride, high knees in the aisles.
Because I think the plane ride in general, whether you're working in finance, flying across the country, or you're an NFL player flying from Denver to London, coach included, is kind of nap time. Or movie time.
Yeah.
Whether you're Peyton Manning, John Elway, or
things can happen to your body, John. 8-hour flight,
I don't think it would be that weird if you said, like, yeah, we did some treatment on the plane. Like, that'd be pretty normal.
I just left it at that.
Yeah.
So it's not the doing it. It's the telling.
I think the high knee thing. And then when he claimed that he went nap and then right back to watching film.
1 hour nap and then back to film. Yeah. That's right. By the way, that game, public service announcement, that game is at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time on ESPN Plus.
I got ESPN Plus. I got the Plus.
I got the Plus as well. It's at 6:30 a.m. on the Plus. Broncos, Jags. So, if you didn't know who was playing and I told you the time and you said no, then you heard it was Broncos, Jags. Obviously now everyone's setting their alarms as they listen to this or watch this live.
Well, I wouldn't have known it was Jags. Obviously, once you hear Russ talk, they're in London, right?
Yeah, but if you didn't know there was a London game, you might just be kind of like, what is he talking about? What's going on?
Well, but when you watch him talk, he talks about the 8-hour flight. You just start doing, like, where's an 8-hour flight? Is Mexico City get a game?
No, I know. But I do think, well, did they have to circle the airport? Was there bad weather? Oh,
middle of the week flight, though. I think a lot of people.
I don't think most people's immediate reaction is they must be in London.
Yeah. I don't know what people's reaction was. It'd be just weird. Like, why
must have had a strong headwind.
Why is he on an 8-hour flight in the middle of the week?
East-West trade winds?
I would have no clue. If you told me who they were playing, that's how I found out they were playing in London, the 8-hour flight. So maybe I'm just assuming. If you would have said, who are they playing?
Yeah.
I would have been like, Vikings? I don't know. They already played in London like 3 weeks ago. So I don't know. I would have had no clue.
Yeah. Well, that's who it is, John. For everybody watching this, great to have you watching. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. We appreciate that on YouTube. If you're watching it live or after the fact, whatever, time doesn't matter. It is in your control. It is in your control as the consumer. If you are listening to this podcast, it's great to have you. We are live on YouTube right now. This is before Thursday Night Football. But if you're listening to the podcast, thank you for that. 5-star review, leave an Apple Podcast review, and leave us a question in that review. That's how you get in the Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF mailbag, which is scheduled to return at a later date. We are sponsored by our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka. It is numero uno in El America. Tito's.
Lloyd, be quiet. I went to Teppanyaki.
Tito's loves dogs.
For I think the second, they love dogs. We got your back, Lols. The second time in my life. And had 3 Tito's and sodas last night. Teppanyaki at, what's the place called? Benihana.
Benihana. Look at you.
You ever been to a Benihana?
I've been to one Benihana, yes.
Pretty good food, not going to lie. Now, they do seat you, unless you go with, it's like a golf, outing. You better bring 4 to the foursome, because if you bring 3, they're putting you with a random guy. So if you go with 2, there are about 8 other tables, and you end up sitting next to other random people.
Oh, happy birthday. Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
It's like, it's not ideal, but regardless, that's what Tito's is for. Had some Tito's sodas, had some steak teriyaki, some chicken fried rice, and it was fantastic. Recommend Benihana. Also recommend Tito's and sodas go right along with it. So Teppanyaki for the win.
Yeah, Tito's, John. You know what we used to tell you all the time about Tito's? doing it right is more important than doing it easy. And Tito's uses old-fashioned pot stills. They taste test every batch. The process is similar to that used to make single malt scotches and high-end French cognacs. It requires more skill. Yes. 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 It requires more effort. Yes. That's right. But sometimes the best things are worth doing right. And Tito's is well worth it. Tito's handmade vodka. Share with us your photos, tag us, all that kind of stuff.
Well, guy, to
always
this,
appreciate
I mean,
that.
it's Halloween ain't for John MIDDLEKAUFF, and I doubt it's for Haberman, though he better be handing out candy, you know.
I'm
in
pro
your neighborhood.
Halloween. I like Halloween vibes.
So this is, I'm sure, a big, for our younger listeners, and I bet, there's some older too. A lot of Halloween parties Friday, Saturday. If you're drinking Tito's and sodas, tag our ass.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. Tag.
Not literally, physically.
Let's
if you see us out and
ride
about.
my ass. Is
at us.
said.
Let's ride my ass.
That's right. There's so many great Halloween recipes on the titosvodka.com. Not that they're telling us to promote that, but I just think it's a great resource. I'm always trying to figure out what should I make? What do you put? So go check it out. There's all kinds of great drinks there, or just go with the old standards. People will always love your John Daly, your ginger and beer, your Tito's and soda. All great options as well. Get some ginger beer in stock. I mean, you can get it at Trader Joe's cheap. Highly recommend. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Thank you, Tito's. We love you. We're also sponsored by butcherbox.com/Hisham, spelled HAM, butcherbox.com/Hammer. Right now, you get a free turkey in your first box when you go to butcherbox.com/Ham and use the code HAM.
Yep, do it right now. Butcherbox.com/Ham. Get a free turkey. You go there, you curate a box. You can get some ground beef. You get some free-range chicken. You get some ribeye steaks. They even have ribs. A lot of different meats. Put it together. When you use our promo code, butcherbox.com/Ham, they give you a free turkey. This little thing, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Thanksgiving. It's right around the corner. There are 3 NFL games that day, which thank you, Jesus, for supplying us with those. Started at 10, then at 1. And
even the Lions. We're
even the Lions. It's their day. It's their day. I don't know how they got grandfathered in, but they sure as hell got grandfathered in with the 10 a.m. kickoff, always in Detroit. So, get on it right now. Butcherbox.com/Ham. Get yourself a free turkey.
Yep. Peace of mind, ultimate convenience, free shipping in the continental United States, no surprise fees, incredible value, a range of high-quality cuts, and the main course for Thanksgiving dinner is done. No stress. ButcherBox.com/Ham. Code HAM gets you one 10 to 14-pound turkey for free in your box. That's ButcherBox.com/Ham and use code HAM to claim this deal.
If you want a good little nugget that I learned last night at Benihana when you're sitting next eating to a random guy, Rocky Aoki, who I didn't really know who that was the guy that founded Benihana. And obviously it became really big. I think he eventually sold it to like a VC firm, cashed out, or still maybe owns a piece, but whatever. He's really famous in the that community, right? In the chef community, restaurant community. His son is Steve Aoki, the famous DJ. Didn't know that. Honestly, didn't know who Rocky was, but
yeah,
I learned last night. And Steve's his son. And this guy was adamant that Steve always tried to keep it quiet because he wanted to go off his own merit of his own talents as a DJ. Not that he was handed this, kind of trajectory in life because his dad was a famous restaurateur.
Steve is a legendary worker. Like
Steve, the DJ.
Yeah, for incredible, to the point that his life has suffered because of how hard of a worker he is.
Wouldn't you imagine he gets that from old Rocky?
Yeah, I think there's a family fight over Rocky's wealth going on, and I don't think Steve is necessarily involved in it. I think there's other family members kind of fighting. I think is Rocky still with us?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
let me double check that.
Maybe there's an impending family fight. Maybe I made that up. That's what I had heard.
You know any of these people?
No, I don't know any of them.
Well, here's one thing when you bring up Rocky. No, excuse me. Rocky died in 2008. So Rocky's been gone for about 15 years. R.I.P. Rocky. Rocky's got a lot of kids, bro.
Yeah.
Devin, Steve, Kanya, Echo, Jennifer, Kevin, Kyle. I mean, he's got a big fucking Rocky was getting it in. Now Rocky's been married about, 3 times.
Yeah. So that story unfortunately makes sense.
And Rocky, I would imagine, was filthy rich at this point. His third wife was married in 2002 and obviously passed away in 2008. So Rocky got married late.
At what age?
Well, 38 to 2008 is, I'm guessing that's a 70. Died at 69. So Rocky would have got married at about 64.
Gotcha. Yosu says Tito's Cotito. How do you say that? Did I say it right?
Cojito?
For the holiday? I didn't know what it was. Cojito. I just went to the Tito's website, and guess what? They have the recipe: Tito's handmade vodka, sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, cream of coconut, vanilla extract, ground cinnamon, and ground nutmeg.
It's funny, like when you go to Rocky's Wikipedia page, it says children 7, including, it just says the number 7, and then semicolon, including Steve, and then his daughter Devin, who is an actress.
Oh, in Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, 2 famous.
Also, or 2, I'm not sure which, but
well, there's about 17 of them. So
Coquito.
My guy last night doing teppanyaki, he was pretty good. With the
flames, onions.
Said he, and just the egg going around. Said he practiced with a golf ball at home when he was coming up.
Genius. That thing's got to be hard to corral.
Yeah, so impressive.
Very good. All right, everybody. Let's dive into a few things, including this. As we record this Thursday, the 49ers had headed out to the practice field, and no Deebo Samuel or Juwan Jennings. Reading from David Lombardi's Twitter at the start of Niners practice, both dealing with hamstring injuries, very significant potential implications. He wrote, of course, Kyle Shanahan's been talking about this. Kyle Shanahan mentioned this on Wednesday in his press conference. When asked Wednesday about Deebo's progress, his answer was, quote unquote, making progress. So, does Deebo being out of a practice on a Thursday mean Deebo's not going to play on a Sunday? No, Deebo is high on the list of guys that can miss practices and play. But given how impactful Deebo Samuel was in the last meeting, he was 36% of the 49ers offense, mostly receiving. He only had 2 carries in that day. And he scored 1 home run touchdown, one of the, maybe some claimed maybe the best touchdown of his career. This is significant. And the Niners talked a ton of shit as a result of, on Deebo's back. Like
when I close my eyes and think of the 49ers beating the Rams, I envision a shitload of Deebo Samuel plays. Starting with that one, but last year, he obviously had some incredible plays in that Week 18 game. I mean, he threw a touchdown. Remember him taking over, just running the ball, and the catch that he had on Jalen Ramsey on that final 2-minute drive. This would be I understand they made a big trade, and we'll get to McCaffrey, but it would be a significant loss. I even think an underrated thing, and we talk about like I give Louis Riddick credit on this one. I just saw his Instagram. I think he's on Shad Khan's yacht right now in London. Because he hashtag yacht life on his Instagram.
Because it is he's calling the game.
Yeah. So the thing you learn in the NFL, because you can look at a unit, you go, God, this guy's have the best offensive line in the league. You're 2 injuries away from an area of strength becoming an area of weakness. Like if Juwan Jennings is their 3rd wide receiver, Deebo's, it's weird. Like, is Ayuk at the end of the year going to have more catches than him? Deebo's, their best, most complete offensive weapon. And you remove those 2 guys, so you basically just have Brandon Ayuk. Who are their other wide receivers? Ray then has to play nonstop, and Danny Gray. I mean, that gets pretty dire pretty quick. Because you'd say, well, when they start with Deebo, Ayuk, and Juwan Jennings, you go, that's probably one of the better 3-man units in the league, right? Just in terms of their high end.
Yeah, I mean, and they've distributed pretty well. Now, obviously, George missed a little time, but Ayuk, 32 catches. Deebo, 32 catches. Kittle, 25 catches. So
how many catches does Juice have? Like 10, 12?
He has 11 catches on 15 targets. You know what his per catch average is?
Well, I would have bet
13.9.
I'd guess about 9 of them have been for first downs, wouldn't you?
That is very close. 7 of his plays have been for first downs. Yeah.
Obviously, Deebo would be a massive loss. I think Juszczyk is not Deebo level, but he's fucking way more important than Juwan Jennings. If you tell me Juwan Jennings missed the game, like whatever.
I would say both. Yeah, I mean, yes, I agree.
I'm not saying whatever. I'm just, if I had to do a hierarchy, I would go Deebo 1 of just the skill guys. Deebo 1, Juice to me would be a clear 2 over Juwan because of his impact as well in the running game.
We'll go back to the Niners-Rams game a few weeks ago. Juszczyk and Jennings combined for 3 catches. Juszczyk had 1 for 35. Jennings had 1 for 10 and 1 for 12. So, you're going to get 2 first down catches a game out of those 2 guys, like big ones, like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 11, right? It just happens every game. 1 from Jennings, 1 from Juice.
Does it ever end? That's what I'm being serious. Like,
what,
does
injuries?
It just ever end? Do they ever just have like a 5-week, a month stretch where it's like, God, that was pretty healthy? Or is it just, this is just the Kyle Shanahan experience? Because you would say so far, this is the Kyle Shanahan experience.
Yeah, I don't think you can count on. I don't think you can go, well, the football guy, it's going to correct itself. Because partly it's this, if it's these players, it's the same players, right? Deebo's had hamstring, groin, like this has been a thing with Deebo before.
Like when you're playing golf and just, your ball's going a certain way, you're like, it's just going right every time I hit. And then like you get to like the 13th hole and you just go, maybe this is the time I hit it down the middle. And then it just never goes down the middle all day. Like it does feel like that with the 49ers. Like
it only goes down the middle on the widest fairway with no OB. That time it goes down the middle.
They would pray at now you could say the bye week's coming at a good time, but in a weird way, it feels like the bye week for the 49ers is pretty irrelevant when it comes to injuries. I'm not saying it hurts, but it doesn't like make them any healthier.
I'll tell you the thing that hurts about the bye week is it feels like you might need the week it all works out in the end. So it's just a perception, but like you can't, we'll see what happens if they're 3-5. Like you can't take time off at 3-5. You got to get back to work at 4-4. But anyway, Deebo specifically, who knows? I'd love to tell you, I think he plays because this game is important and Deebo tends to play. And you've got one thing where the bye week does help you is if you have guys that are a little banged up, maybe you try and push it a little bit.
Hamstrings.
But it's, you don't want to hurt a hamstring worse and have him out in 2 weeks, but you really need this game.
I remember the one thing I remember about 2020, besides the last couple of weeks when their entire team was in a box at the Arizona Stadium, like their entire team. It was like, that's like their starting lineup was just in the box, all injured. There was a play, I forget which week, but like, remember Deebo had hamstring injuries that week. And there was a play where he caught the ball and went out of bounds. And maybe like the step before, the step right after he hit the white line, like he pulled up. That's a visual I would want no part of if I'm the Niners. So as shitty as it would be to risk going 3-5, I cannot have him like grade 2 hamstring out a month, right? Because you only missed 3 games out of 4, but that's a major blow. Kind of like the Bosa thing. Could, if it was the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship game, could he have played the Atlanta Falcon game? Probably, I would guess maybe, right?
Yeah.
But they gave him the week, and then it looked like, actually his speed, he was too fast getting up the field, and he used it against him. But, like, he looked pretty normal to me. He had the sack. He just looked like, if you feel like it's that, then I don't know, man. I can't risk it. I can't. Because the one thing would have been like, well, we pushed it the Atlanta game and he's out 2 months. You'd be like, oh, you're fucked. Your season's over.
You're saying with Deebo this week, you would not push it. That's what you're saying?
I would have to feel like he's unhurtable, which is clearly never a case with a 49er player. I would, if he can't practice all week because it's tight, he ain't playing. Which sucks. Like you said, it's Kyle Shanahan plays in more must-win games on October 30th than any good coach, which is up for debate. Some people are like, he sucks, but you know what I mean.
I 100% know it is unbelievable. It is so true. It's like college football level must-win games in October.
Well, it's weird, like for the Rams, for example. They lose this, their season is in major trouble. But you'd go, well, they've been in multiple Super Bowls. They won one. They've been in the playoffs basically every fucking year. And the one year they missed, they went 9-7. Like, are they in any must-win games this year? Sean McVay would say, yeah. Right?
You mean just for making the playoffs?
I'm just saying the way they're judged on the outside, right? If they have a 8-9 year, is that big a deal in the grand scheme of things?
No.
If Kyle Shanahan has an 8-9 year, is this a big deal, an utter disaster?
It's a big deal. And look, here's the thing. I watched some of Sean McVay, his Wednesday press conference, I guess, today. And just watching him. I don't watch him every week, but I see a fair amount of him. He was a pretty comfortable guy. Like he seemed that, they're coming off the bye. They're 3-3. I think they feel good. We can talk more about them. They feel good because they got their center, Brian Allen, coming back. Van Jefferson, remember, left the Super Bowl celebration because his wife was having a baby, had a knee surgery, and he's back this week. I don't know if he's going to play yet, but he's been a limited participant in practice. So they actually feel like they got some good vibes going, the Rams. You
listen to Schrager last week with Russillo?
No.
He said last week when he flew in, he knew McVay was on a bye. He texted him like, "You want to meet up to get a drink?" And McVay's like, "Just come over to my house." So he went over to his house, hung out on Saturday.
Yeah.
And he was kind of reiterating the way you're saying. He's like, I was expecting him to be kind of down, have some like cocktails, kind of bitching and moaning. He's like, he was in pretty good spirits. Like, we've had some injuries. He's like, obviously Stafford's been banged up. He didn't feel like all is lost on the season. He was basically saying, I've known him for a long time, and I was surprised on his upbeat energy.
That's the vibe.
That Wickersham article, right, says that, like, he's a guy that handles losing not well.
He looked fresh to me. He looked fresh. And
they did upgrade houses. I've read. I think his house is pretty incredible.
Well, he just got to spend probably his first time in 2 months at the house. Then,
yes,
but this makes it then it's a big game for Christian McCaffrey immediately. McCaffrey, remember, played against the Panthers 2 weeks ago. The Panthers' last game before, not the Panthers, the Rams. The Rams' last game before the bye was against the Panthers and Christian McCaffrey. It was the Christian McCaffrey showcase game. We talked about this on the pod. The Panthers put him on display that day. Christian McCaffrey against the Rams had 20 touches for 158 yards, 8 yards per touch. Okay. 13 carries for 69 yards, 7 catches for 89 yards. He is not Deebo Samuel. They are different. But he had kind of an old school 2021 Deebo Samuel game the last time he played against the Rams. And so on one hand, you go, the Rams just saw him. But on the other hand, if Deebo can't play, then I think the Rams defense and the Rams as a team are coming for these. The Niners talked a lot of shit last time. And McCaffrey's going to have to kind of, cash those checks that Deebo wrote. Although it's not Deebo's fault. But McGlinchey pointing at Jalen Ramsey, right?
Deebo did talk some shit after the game,
but he like, to me, like
he's allowed to.
Yeah, he did it. Like, he did the deed, So
because didn't he say, like, I wasn't quite sure what he was trying to do when he said Jalen was backing up?
Yeah.
But the McGlinchey thing is
McGlinchey pointing in his face. And the Niners have beat them a lot in the regular season. So they have earned that as a team. But McCaffrey was not a part. So McCaffrey's got to, like, if there's no Deebo, don't you agree? Like, this is going to be a lot of, and I think Kittle will have to, like, the yak, like, dudes are going to be coming in to make stops. But this could be a McCaffrey game. This could need to be a McCaffrey game.
I saw a clip yesterday from practice that McCaffrey was taking just running routes on air, which isn't that crazy. I bet in McCaffrey's career, he doesn't just run like running back drills. Like, he is a hybrid. I do wonder if he's getting legit cross training like this week, that they could just put him in the slot, right? Like, legitimately just put him in the slot, or find out, can we put him on the outside? Because here's what happens if Deebo
they did last week. Remember that play that we were talking about where Juszczyk had to tell him where to line up?
You're right. I would guess there would be some legit wide. If Deebo and Juwan Jennings are out, he's probably playing some wide receiver this week, which he should, because the other thing is, like, losing Juice. Like, Juice is another guy that could line up in the slot several times a game. So that's part of the blow.
And is a tough guy, right? And breaks tackle and brings the heat.
I do wonder if Deebo and Juwan Jennings are out, that's pretty easy for the Rams then to just have number 5 fall around 11. Like, I would imagine Ayuk sees Jalen Ramsey the entire game. Like, that's just, why would you not, right?
Yeah.
You put your best corner on their best wide receiver, and then you basically, I saw our guy Akash tweeted out a couple last night. Still photos. What? What did you say?
Onaverathan, I think is the last name.
I didn't even attempt.
I got it on the pronunciation
he had some
guide
good
right here.
Still photos of Ty Davis Price. There was just an underrated part of Elijah Mitchell's game. Honestly, it's probably what he hangs his hat on, because he's not super fast. He's not super big. He's just a natural. And there are holes in the Shanahan offense that it's not predicated, right? Like when I was at Fresno State and then Andy ran the same play, like the power. You pull a guard, you pull both guards, and you lead up with the fullback. The hole is set. Like within 5 or 6 feet, like where you're going. Kyle's offense and just the zone running scheme in general is a lot predicated on feel. Like it's an outside zone, but you're allowed to cut it completely back if it's there. Some big runs happen. Ty Davis Price went the wrong way on a couple. And I do wonder if like he's not quite ready. Like he's definitely very talented, but like on that specific zone running scheme, that this year might be somewhat of just a complete learning and, just
is that how that works?
Well, the knock, like I remember Darren McFadden, there are certain players that actually don't, Adrian Peterson, like they just want to specifically be told where to go and then let me cook. Like I got no problem. And Ty Davis Price, wouldn't you say, kind of falls under this umbrella, like lowering a shoulder, breaking a tackle? Just tell me what to hit. I'll hit it. And fuck, I got no problem trying to run the guy over. And you watch his LSU tape, like that's kind of what he was doing. Elijah Mitchell's much more like kind of feeling Frank Gorish, right? And that makes me a little nervous. This gets back to McCaffrey. Like you kind of need him to be your backup running back as well. I know he's technically your starter, but you know what I mean? Like he's got to basically split. He's got to take a ton of carries as well with Wilson. Because ideally you would just kind of use them all over the place if Deebo's out and have just your running backs just hammer the ball between the tackle. And then, like 2 or maybe more than 2, but like 5 true carries that he's going to take big hits. And then a lot of like wheel routes, slot routes, screen plays to McCaffrey. Yeah. But do you kind of need him to run the ball if you don't feel Ty Davis Price is fucking ready to just hit it?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Wilson carried the ball well last week, right? Which does free McCaffrey up a little bit.
True, but like if you're going to run, like if you plan on going into the game 25 carries, okay, so I'm giving Wilson 10 to 12, right?
Yeah.
15, there's another 10. Like if
maybe it's back to Deebo gets 5, right? They kind of moved away from that.
But he's out, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
So McCaffrey kind of has to take that role.
Ayuk jet sweep.
And this is where the trickle-down effect happens so fast, right? You feel like, God, the Niners have an unlimited amount of weapons. Now it's like, well, shit. I mean, we need McCaffrey to move over here. Now we're missing juice.
It is an argument, and we did talk about this. It is an argument if you want to make a for the trade argument.
If you can play a receiver, it works.
Yeah, that you get running backs hurt. You've got some receivers that have been hurt. So get a guy that can actually help you in both spots should you need help. And, maybe McCaffrey does. The other thing with him, if he has a good game against the Rams and helps you beat the Rams, the team that you upped your bid to beat in the trade, right? And you traded a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth for him. That does help you make the argument. If it's like, well, we got him. They didn't get him. He helped us beat them. That helps. Now, you don't remember that in 3 years if he's been hurt and you haven't won and you don't have any picks. Like, who cares that you won that one game October 27th of 2022? But right now, like, they'll be walking around the offices next week on a bye pretty satisfied with themselves if McCaffrey helps them beat the Rams, specifically because, they wanted them.
You want to hear the stat of the day? Now, this is all predicated if Tampa loses tonight to the Ravens. The Panthers can beat the Atlanta Falcons this week and be in first place.
Wow. Now, I will say they are not beating the Falcons this week. To me, the Panthers have the classic college football thing. Like, coach gets fired, interim coach takes over. Now, they actually lost right away first, right? This was Steve Wilkes' second game. The Niners got him fired. Then they played a game. Then they beat the Bucs.
Oh, yeah, because they played the Rams.
They lost to the Rams. So, but this happens all the time in college. In the Pac-12, you and I both watch it. It's happened twice already this year. Herm got fired. New coach takes over. Upset Washington. Colorado. Their coach gets fired. Interim coach takes over. They beat Cal.
Yeah.
Colorado got run the next week.
I would say it's a Power 5 in NFL consistent. Like, you usually get an inspired effort. And if you don't, it's time to just cut a lot of people.
I also think the Bucs, in a weird way, have like less juice than the Falcons do right now. Now we'll see Thursday night. They like the Bucs think they belong in a game with the Ravens, right? Like that's a Power 5. Again, the college football thing is like that's when LSU plays a Cincinnati, all due respect to Cincinnati, now they might give them more respect. But like 4 years ago, you play Cincinnati in a bowl game, you're like, fuck this. And then Cincinnati wins. And Auburn, maybe they beat somebody, Auburn or LSU.
Well, they beat Georgia the year Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, and they beat Georgia players are like, I don't even want to be here.
Now, the Panthers did kick. I watched a fair amount of that game. They kicked the Bucs' ass. Like, they scored real touchdowns in that game, not real BS stuff. But that's a hell of a nugget. That is a hell of a nugget.
Yeah.
Anyway, McCaffrey game. This would be on the flip side of that.
I'm with you on the value. If he can, we know he can, but like he's got to do it. The value goes dramatically up, and you feel less like nitpicking over. Was it really worth all these? Like, to me, a 5th and a 4th round pick mean nothing to me, especially a future 5th. Like, that means nothing to me. You could argue the 4th round, but like 2nd and 3rd round players, they do mean something to me. I've said over and over, I don't put that much stock in once we get to day 3 and they start going to like the Colts, Reggie Wayne from the zoo. Once you start doing that, but the second day is a real day, right? Where you're getting starters, and and they're cheap. So it allows you, when you have 2nd and 3rd round picks, to, I just think, to like make moves. And now historically, like the Niners got Trent Williams for a 3rd. The Eagles got Darius Slay for a 3rd. So obviously it costs money to get good players, older veterans. And this one was unique because you were in a bidding process. But when you are a Swiss Army knife, and which that's always he's hung his hat on, and I think, wouldn't you say when he got on draft night, when Christian McCaffrey went 8th, that was kind of like, damn.
Yeah,
people thought he was going to go in the 1st round.
Yeah,
I wasn't the biggest fan because I thought
he was the pick
of the player, because I didn't envision him being able to be like a sweet running back. I knew he could be a sweet wide receiver, but I was like, in the top 20, you're going to take basically Julian Edelman meets Wes Welker, even if he can become the best slot. I thought it was kind of great, but he's a great running back.
Get a cross-racial comp?
Jarvis Landry meets Alvin Kamara. But he's an elite player, and then it turns out the knock on him was more just, can he stay healthy? And now, for the first time in a long time, because he's only played on shitty teams, like a lot of people are like, how does he look with all the chips on the table? Like that Rams game, for example, when he clearly got the classic, like, put you on a showcase. That game meant nothing ultimately, right? So this is big. Like, he's every tackle he breaks, every touchdown he scores, every game that he allows them to miss an all-pro. Think about that. Like, hey, man, we need you to step up because we're missing our all-pro Deebo Samuel, who we just gave $60 million to.
Yeah.
Who carried us to the NFC fucking championship last year. Can you do that?
Against this team, toe-to-toe against this team.
Well, you don't just need me to try to save Matt Rule's job and catch balls from Teddy Bridgewater. No, like, this is 125 game Fox. It's going to have 15 million people watching.
Yeah. Burkhardt's coming in on the jet after a game.
We think.
Do they play Friday, Saturday?
Does Burkhardt call World Series games, or is that Joe Davis?
No, he does the studio, though. Like, they are on site. Is it Friday, Saturday World Series games or Friday, Sunday?
Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. So Burkhardt will be in on the jet Sunday morning.
Yeah. Fox is smart, right? Like, yeah, we'll compete with the Big Ten and some of our other stuff, but we ain't messing with the National Football League.
All right. So let's talk about just the game in general, right? The implications, John. Let's talk about implications. The Niners are 3-4. You just said that if the Panthers win, and if you're watching this after the fact, you already know, but if the Bucs lose, the Panthers are in first place in that division. Panthers and Falcons have both beat the Niners, which is part of the reason the Niners are in this spot. Meanwhile, the Rams are 3-3. So if they lose, they're 3-4, but it just feels like they're in a different world. Then there's a difference between 3-4 and 3-5. 3-4, you just a win away, you can get things even. That's where the Niners are now. But heading into a bye at 3-5 would feel pretty bad, even in an NFC that is, has the Giants in the playoffs right now, has the Bucs, who are not playing great football, in the playoffs right now, has the Seahawks in the playoffs right now. We'll see. The Vikings are 5-1 and obviously clearly in the playoffs right now. So that's a lot of there are spots that maybe could change, but eventually you got to go win games. Like you got to go get above 500 if you're going to be a playoff team.
Sherman had Bobby Wagner on the podcast this week.
Yeah.
And I was like, I clicked on it because I was like, I wonder if they'll talk a little shit about Russ. And I actually didn't listen for that long, so I never got that far. But one thing Bobby Wagner's like, obviously the records in this division aren't maybe as good as they have been the last couple years at this point in time. That was widely considered one of the best divisions in football. But he's like, I still, like, on a weekly basis, you turn on, like, these teams. He's like, the Cardinals just get Hopkins back. And all of a sudden, if they win this weekend, which I don't think would be crazy on the road at Minnesota when everyone's going to be picking the Vikings off a bye. Well, Arizona's kind of coming off a bye, too. Do you know their record? I heard a stat today that the Cardinals with DeAndre Hopkins average 27 points a game, and without him average 18 in a lot over the life of his 3 years with Kyler Murray. So it's a big deal. And Seattle, you and I were talking before we hopped on, obviously play the Giants, which is crazy. This would have been the classic game if you just like looked over the schedule, like on this given week, you're like, yeah, not watching this one. I mean, if Seattle wins this game, they're 5-3 and clearly in first place. And like you said, the Niners and the Rams, like, if the Rams were to win this game, the Niners would be in last place.
Well, I'll give you a stat on that Giants-Seahawks game. It's the only game in the league this weekend between two teams with winning records.
If I would have told you at the beginning of the season that coming into week 8, that the Giants at Seattle, in terms of the playoffs and being top in their division, would be dramatically bigger than the Packers going to the Bills, you would have been like, shut up, right?
Yeah. Now, you could argue it's the Packers-Bills game is pretty big because the Packers win it. They're 4-4. It'd be a hell of a win for them.
But wouldn't you argue that at the beginning of the season, we talked about it with the Chiefs-Bills, right? Probably the number 1 draft pick, just Bills at Chiefs. I mean, that might just be the best game on paper. Wouldn't Packers at Bills been probably a top 5 game on paper?
Yeah.
It still is. Sunday night has it for a reason, but Giants, Seattle, it's weird. It doesn't even feel like it's saying it, but if Seattle wins this game 5-3, they're in pretty incredible position. Like they're just not going away. They've already got a 2-game lead on being over, a 2-game cushion over being over 500, right? I mean, for the Niners to get 2 games over 500, they have to win 3 games in a row. Like, so it just gets to the swing. Like the NFL is not baseball where you just get to play every week. And I'm not a Kyler and Cliff guy. Everyone knows that. But holy shit, I mean, they win this weekend. It feels like you could just fucking light them on fire, dump them, and the season was over. And all of a sudden they're 4-4, and they really haven't played anyone in their division yet, guy.
I know. And I, as I said the other day, at this point, I have a hard time envisioning the Niners sweeping the Cardinals and beating the Seahawks again. Now, I don't have a hard time envisioning them beating the Seahawks. But if you just said, are they going to win all 3 of those games? At this point, you'd have to say, no, they're not. Now, if they win, if they beat the Rams, they hit the bye at 500. They play the Chargers, the Cardinals, the Saints, the Dolphins after that.
Who's this? The Niners?
The Niners, yeah.
Yeah.
They play the Bucks, which I don't care what happens. And again, we'll see what happens Thursday night. I think the Bucks are going to be formidable. You're not chalking them up. But you're not chalking up the Seahawks. You're not chalking up the Cardinals. You're not chalking up the Chargers, but those are all games that the Niners are very capable of winning, especially if they come out of the bye a little healthier. So here's the other thing. If the Rams win, now I know the Rams won the playoff game last year, but the Niners have owned them, and they continue to own them in the regular season. 7 straight in the regular season. So the Rams can kind of break that spell a little bit. I think that's probably part of the reason why the Niners felt so comfortable kind of just talking about the Rams the way they talk about the Rams, is that they have beat them a lot.
Well, it feel a little bit like the Titans and the Colts. It just feels like every time I watch Titans and the Colts, I don't really watch it, but every time I check in on the scores, Titans win every single time.
Yeah.
It feels like they just dominate them. The difference is like the Titans go to the playoffs every year. The Colts do not. Like the Rams have been really formidable. If they do win this game and they've won 4 straight years of sweeping the Rams, how many teams that have been 4 straight years as a playoff team? Now, who knows if the Rams end up making the playoffs, get swept every year by a team in their division. Like that's probably pretty. We'd have to get some ESPN stats and info, which I'm sure will come out if the Niners do it. There'll probably be some crazy data behind it because it would feel pretty unprecedented. The Lions get swept all the time by the Packers. Like, oh yeah, no shit, or the Bears. Like we get it. The Rams, when they're winning double-digit games every single year, get swept by a team in their division. This game is massive, obviously, divisionally. Looking at the Cardinals' schedule, after this week, they do go Seattle, Rams, Niners. So, like, in about 4 weeks, I think we're going to get a lot of clarity on the Cardinals. And like you said, the Niners it will be a major kick in the nuts going to the bye at 3-5. It would be, listen, I mean, there are some shitty teams. Obviously, the Jags are struggling, and who knows, they might lose. I guess if the Broncos were to lose this week and the Niners were to lose this week, you might give the nod to the Broncos, just given that they're 2-6. That's pretty crazy. But they did beat the Niners. So the Niners are 3-5, who had Super Bowl aspirations and universally were getting picked to make the playoffs, and are 3-5, and one of their losses is to the 2-6 Broncos. Like, I would put them head for head right there with the Broncos as a disappointment, because you could argue, and I kind of did, like, are we sure Nate Hackett? And it's kind of playing out that way.
I did argue. I said I thought they'd finish last in their division.
You did. I don't think I did. So that's a good pick.
But so my point is, I would say the Niners are a bigger disappointment.
So 2-6 Broncos, 3-5. You would give the Niners a bigger nod?
Without question, absolutely, not even close. If they lose this game, biggest disappointment of the first half of the season.
I agree.
Still could dig out of it, but it's like, how many times you got to win games eventually? 0-7. Oh, the thing about the 7 wins in a row too is, like, it's not, the last game was 24-9, kind of misleading, right?
How the Niners win 7 games in a row and they went 3-5? How'd they even pull off 10? How's that even possible?
What 7 in a row against the Rams in the regular season?
I guess you just need to win 7 more games out of the 10 or out of the 9. So you basically have to go. I'm saying to get to 10-7 when you're 3-5, you have to go 7-2.
Yeah,
which doesn't feel like they did, but I guess they did it.
Yeah. But it's not as if these Rams games are just, you beat a team 7 times in a row, you think you just must kick their ass every time. One thing, the wins for the Niners, one common thread, one thing that pops up from time to time is not just a pick, but a pick 6, right? Hufunga had the pick 6 in the last meeting. Niners got to the third quarter with the lead, which turns out to be a very key statistic for the 49ers. But they scored two offensive touchdowns the last time they played the Rams. Deebo had the big one. Remember, Jeff Wilson had a big run in the game on a good drive. It wasn't like some freak thing, but the Deebo play was a 3rd and 3. Robbie Gould hit a field goal, and Talanoa Hufunga had a pick 6. Like, that's how they beat the Rams 24-9. 2 stats for you. Both those Niner touchdowns were from outside of the red zone, right? Pretty sure the Jeff Wilson Jr. run was like a 35-yarder, 32-yarder, and Deebo's play was 57. The Niners had red zone trouble last week. We've seen them have red zone touchdown trouble. 2 stats on the Rams. Number 1, the Rams have allowed just 4 red zone touchdowns this year. That's pretty good in only 12 red zone trips. The Rams are the only team in the NFL that have not yet benefited from a pass interference penalty on the opposing defense. Think about that.
That's pretty crazy.
That makes no sense. Now, maybe they've declined 1 or 2. That is a crazy stat. But the Niners defense right now feels like it's at a fork in the road, John. They got their asses kicked. And there have been a lot of numbers since the Chiefs game about how historically bad it was. It was like DVOA, worst defense, 8th worst defensive performance since 1981 or something like that. I don't know if you saw that one, but that was one of the defensive nuggets on the Niners last week. And there's been talk, is Jimmy Ward happy with his being used as a nickel back? And I saw, Grant Cohn tweeted the Niners are costing him money by using him as a nickel back. And Armstead, Kyle Shanahan can't even articulate what his injury is because it's the foot and it's the heel and they kind of connect. And I stay out of it, all that type of stuff. Greenlaw, Alshire, like the guys who are beat up and not practicing or partially participating is long. But they got embarrassed last week with Nick Bosa on the field, with Fred Warner on the field, with Emmanuel Mosley on the field, right?
Mosley?
Like those guys, huh? Not
Emmanuel
Mosley. Sorry, Charvarius Ward.
Yeah.
Mooney is what got me confused there. They got embarrassed with their best defensive players on the field. So my question is, are the Niners all pissed? Are people in a little bit of disarray? I won't say pissed at each other, but is this defense in disarray? or are they about to respond to what the Chiefs did to them? Because I do think the defense, as unpopular as this would be this week, I will defend them a little bit in the sense that while they gave up a ton of points and a ton of scoring drives, I think if their offense scores touchdown, that game plays out differently for them. Like, I think these are team games. And yes, the offense operates and the defense operates. They're not on the field at the same time, but I don't think they operate completely independent of one another and in a bubble. And I think when you miss opportunities on offense and then like these things to me work together from a field position standpoint and just from a tone of the game standpoint. And the 49ers offense did not help the 49ers defense last week. And to me, if you're going to get historically beat up, for it to happen by Patrick Mahomes, while not quote unquote okay, to me, if Mahomes does it to you and Andy Reid does it to you, it's not necessarily a complete indictment that your defense is no part of what everybody thought it was. Now, maybe it's not historically great, but I don't come away from that game last week going, well, guess the Niners defense can't carry them anymore. They were a bunch of frauds. That's not how I feel about them. But I do think this is a big game for them. Like what was last week against the Chiefs, in part, they can change what that game was. It was either a one-time occurrence that you throw away. Weird shit happens sometimes. We were playing an all-time great quarterback. Or it was the turning point in how we view them. And I think this Rams game for them, like, I think it's a big game for them. I think it's a really big game for them.
I heard a stat today that a lot of the junkies go off of, like obviously the stat nerds, but also the gamblers are the yards per play. Yeah. It's a big one. Is that the Arizona Cardinals are 20th on defense, but if you siphon out week 1 against the Chiefs when they got same type deal happen with the Niners, they're 9th. And the point that is just that I think he kind of, if it happens 3 out of the 9 games or 7 games or whatever, then it can be like you got some major holes. But if it's just the one team whose high end clearly is the highest right behind Buffalo, like I would put Buffalo in the same category. Like if your Buffalo game, you lose 48-10, and every other game that your defense is top half of the league, you have a top half of the league defense. You're just playing the best team in the league. They're going to beat you most of the time, right? It's like I'm a great defender in basketball. What do they always say? Well, great offense always beats great defense in basketball. Like there's just Kobe's on, Michael's on, Giannis is on, LeBron's on. There's nothing you can do. And I would put Mahomes and Josh Allen in that category now. So I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt if the defense keeps rolling. And I'm with you. Like I've watched the Cardinals a decent amount. Like they do got some guys that fly around as well. Now the Niners high end is higher than the Cardinals. Obviously their pass rush is a lot better. But my point is like I think you can, when the season plays out, I think it might turn out that the Chiefs are an outlier for a lot of teams. If your defense is good. Now, if your defense is bad, it might not matter. But like the Niners clearly when healthy. Now, here's the thing. And I saw someone crunching the numbers, and it's right. One thing I noticed last week, the Chiefs' offensive line is very physical, which is ironic because they actually are just a pass team more than a run team. But a couple times last week, I thought just on some basic between the tackle runs, the fucking defensive linemen, especially the tackles, were getting destroyed. And luckily, this matchup, I mean, their starting running back, they basically sent home, right? Cam Akers. I mean, Sean McVay hates him. It's weird. Like, clearly Sean McVay really hates this guy, yet he was way more publicly mean to Jared Goff than he ever has been for all these other guys. Like, this would be one where, like, I fucking can't stand this guy, but you're trying to trade him. I get it. You're eventually, I guess the Niners do get a little lucky too. Like, the Chargers don't have a big power running back. Maybe it's just the league, because as long as Kinlaw and Armstead are nowhere to be found, they are very, very susceptible to someone running it down their throat. So the Rams, Chargers, Cardinals, they actually just get pretty lucky. Like, to me, the Seahawks would be a bad matchup for them right now if they wanted to play that way, right? If Kenneth Walker's just going to be humming. But to me, your defense, like, they want to throw it. And the Niners love when the Rams throw it because they can get after their defensive line. Now, I was at that Week 18 game, and the Niners, I've never seen a 17-3 halftime score that felt more like 50-0. And part of it was, remember, Jimmy was atrocious. Now, Trent Williams didn't play. And that was one of those, holy moly, and he's playing this week, which is obviously huge. But Jimmy cannot be a disaster. Now, I would also imagine what would you guess the split is for the red versus the white and blue, whatever the fuck they consider themselves?
Yeah, 60-40. I don't know.
Yeah. So it'll be a Niner home game.
Yeah, but
Cooper Kupp has been a major, major issue for them. If Stafford does not turn the ball over, which this year he did, that game he did, earlier in the season last year on that Monday night game he did. If he doesn't, like Cooper, I don't know what you do to Cooper Kupp. Hurt him. What did Dan Brown once famously say? Like, how do you slow down Reggie Bush? He said, hurt him in warmups, take him out in warmups. It's like that's what Cooper Kupp has been. Now, listen, he dominates against everyone, but part of the reason it hasn't killed them, right, is their inability to run the ball and two, Stafford giving it to you. Like if Stafford eventually, just the law of averages, you think, would just have a game where he doesn't turn the ball over.
You didn't throw a touchdown last time, too. Now, Cooper had 14 for 122. Remember, Higbee was good, too, but he did not throw a touchdown.
Stafford is a turnover machine right now. Matt Ryan, I think, matched him. I think they're tied for the old
for the league lead.
I think so, because I'm pretty sure I saw Matt Ryan had 9. Stafford had 9 and didn't play last week, right? Yeah, Rams on a bye. Yep. So the league leader is actually Matt Ryan took. Stafford's got 8. Matt Ryan's in the lead, but Matt Ryan's going to end. So Matt Ryan's going to get passed by some people because, as you pointed out, it's a rest of the year thing. If Sam Ehlinger sucks, does that mean they'll go to Nick Foles?
There is no way they're going to let Sam Ehlinger play the rest of the year if he sucks the whole time, nonstop. Just maybe it's Jim Irsay's ploy to get the coach to quit so he doesn't have to pay him. I don't know. I did see Irsay tweeted today, though, John, a very powerful message. Did you see that?
What did he say?
Let me get you the exact verbiage here. I don't want to mess something.
This is a problem for these two guys. Like Kenny Pickett and Mac Jones can't have 6 and 7 interceptions. How does Kenny Pickett didn't even start the year? How does he have fucking 7 picks? No wonder the Steelers keep
7 picks.
Kenny Pickett, he didn't start for several games because of Mitchell. Kenny Pickett has 4 starts, 3 starts actually, and played the game. Mac Jones has 6. He's missed a couple.
Jim Irsay tweeted, beginning tomorrow, October 27th, so this was yesterday, I guess, on your viewing device, 27 straight days of football. Human civilization has hereby reached its zenith.
Is he factoring like Mac? Not
must
Jones, but the Mac.
Who's playing football next Tuesday?
It's got to be a Mac-shin team. Who plays football on Wednesday?
Yeah, well, actually, I've seen a few people tweet this, so I don't know.
Here's what I got to say.
Spring League?
Like, I'm good with Tuesday and Wednesday, like not having something else going on. Like, I can watch Netflix.
I know, but most people don't work in sports, Maybe they want to watch football every day.
But they don't. I mean, we've seen the action numbers. Let's face it. We watch football.
Action on Saturday afternoon. They play on Saturdays, too. It's not a day thing.
I know, but that's one thing they really like to hang their hat on is the Mac, because who else is going to play on Tuesday and Wednesday?
They're just getting a better number that day than they'd get on Saturday, right?
Well, exactly. Like, my point is, I'm cool with football being Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then just taking a little Netflix, Hulu break for a couple nights.
Yeah, understood. I get you.
Which I think I recommended the early on the Steve Carell Patient where he's locked in.
Click on it.
I would pivot and say it's not as good as I thought it had a chance to be. I think I bet on the guy, and as the series went on, not much happened.
Okay.
And again, I just bet on the guy, and I get he self-produced it, and it was his pet project, but it's just kind of boring. Got
it. Didn't watch. Who was the serial killer? Who the people were?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer. I did not watch it because I told Alyssa I'm not going to watch it, so you can watch it without me. She watched it, described it to me, and I was very happy that I didn't watch it.
It's an easier watch though than like.
The fascination with like the mind of a serial killer. I don't really have it. I'm not fascinated by the mind of a serial killer. Don't really care. Don't fucking. Yeah. I could pick. I mean, I'm no profiler, but probably had a tough childhood, abused. Mind of a serial killer.
Actually, Dahmer's thing. His dad was actually a softie.
Well, that was the other thing she told me. She's like, his dad. My thing was like, did they do anything about what it's like to be Jeffrey Dahmer's parents? Are they still alive? That must be fucking
Dad's
insane.
still alive. Dad's still alive.
That must be insane. Give me a thing on him. He didn't kill anybody.
I'm with you. I'm more fascinated by. I've always been fascinated by the mob and the cartel because I'm always like, these guys are incredible business people. If they just focus on the right thing, they would make a ton of money. But they're always. It's just hard once you start making the big cash and they can't pivot. I get it. You get stuck. It was just. It was well done. Like the acting was really good. Part of it. It's
Wait a
not
second. Acting. It wasn't a documentary. Or they like re.
Yeah, it's like basically, it's a biopic. But that's where the dad, I think, came out and said that it was actually kind of bullshit. Now, part of it was, being a neighbor in this low-income apartment building where he's like cooking it. It's just in the smell. I can't even.
Yeah. See, this is where I don't want to live in that world. That world exists for some. I could pass. Callum says couldn't get over it was the same dad from Step Brothers.
Same dad, yeah. It did a good job.
That's fantastic. All right, we mentioned 6:30 a.m.
Well, is there a chance? Obviously, some serial killers have just traumatic things happen to them or whatever. Is there also a chance that some people just get born really fucked up? I'm not.
Yeah, 100% mental. Yes, absolutely.
Like really, really fucked up. Like not everyone is just
I'm not
locked and loaded to be paid.
Yeah, we'll put that in the category. Abused, mental illness. I just don't. I don't wonder what makes a person because it's not. It's just fucking it's nuts. It's insane.
Well, is every stripper have daddy issues or some just people hoes?
I guess if you're born with the name, there's some names that probably predispose you to,
Well, Candy, the show, the Hulu show with Timberlake's wife, Beal, pretty good,
but not a stripper.
Not a stripper.
That's just
I'm trying to think back.
An affair, maybe.
Yeah. Did you watch?
I watched the trailer.
Yeah,
it looks pretty creepy, actually.
If we didn't have football on for 27 straight days, you could dive into it on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
I was going hard. I realized I've watched one episode of The Sopranos in like 2 months. I was watching 3 episodes a day for a month, but football started. All right, we mentioned some of the games, John. Also, Bears Cowboys is out there this week. Cardinals Vikings. Again, Vikings are 5-1. Cards are 3-4. The 2-4 Raiders taking on the Dennis Allen revenge game. Does Dennis Allen get a revenge game at 2-5 Saints?
Yeah, Mark Davis, give him a hug. Remember, Mark refused to talk to him. Only went through Reggie. Remember that one?
No, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
I don't think Mark Davis liked Dennis Allen.
Did you see the Jeff Ulbrich clip going around social media on Thursday?
Jeff Ulbrich coaching where?
Jets defense.
No, what was he doing?
So last year, Jets are 5-2.
Yep.
Pats are 3-4.
Yep.
Last year, the Patriots were up 40 and were throwing deep balls. And Jeff Ulbrich this week gave a press conference in which he said a whole lot of we haven't forgotten. Which, okay, you're the Jets and they're the Patriots. Let's see. It takes balls to go into a Belichick game with a whole lot of we haven't forgotten stuff.
He hates them, guy, with an
sorry,
unbridled
Jeff,
passion.
Robert, Sala, you guys are just caught in the crossfire. It's not your fault.
You had nothing to do with it. He hates you. Hates you.
So
which
didn't
he leave them? That's what's weird.
Yeah, but remember, they wouldn't let him. It was they didn't want to let him go. Remember, Bill had to try and sneak out from under Parcells, and they wouldn't let him go.
But isn't that kind of more on Parcells? And Woody Johnson did not own the team.
I don't know. I think the Jets. Again, somebody might be a better. I'm sure it's a better historian on this. But my question is, does Bill have the wherewithal this week with Bailey Zappi?
Max starting. I think Bill even announced it.
Okay, you seen the video, the Mac Jones videos going around? Because I remember seeing the Mac Jones slide where he got in baseball, it would be a bench clearing brawl if you came in with your cleats as high as Mac Jones came in on Jaquan Brisker.
Kicked him in the nuts or something, didn't he?
Yes. But there was another clip that came out of Mac sliding and he sprays his legs out to try and catch somebody. And remember last year there was the play where he held on and twisted. Whose ankle was that?
Oh, yeah. Is he like the Draymond of quarterbacks?
He might be the Draymond of quarterbacks, yes. Weird
I do
game.
like the Patriots this week, don't you?
I do. I mean, it's Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
But it was Bill again. Zach Wilson, does he have the capability to do what Justin Fields did last week? Like physically, can he play that way? No. Right. He's mobile, but he's not Justin Fields as a runner.
What was I going to do? You know that the Jets have beaten Jacoby Brissett, Kenny Pickett. I don't even know I forget the guy's name. Miami's third stringer.
Oh, Skylar Thompson.
Give him this. They did beat Aaron Rodgers. And then they beat Jimmy Rippon. Brett Rippon. Like, they're not exactly beating,
this week
Dan Marino, Deshaun Watson, Roethlisberger, and Peyton Manning.
Well, but they're not exactly playing one of those guys this week either.
No. It does feel that the way that they've played, this is just a bad matchup. Do you know their next 3 games, the Jets? They're 5-2. They could be 5-5 quick. Patriots, Bills, Patriots.
Patriots, Bills. Wow. Feels like the Jets win one of the Patriots games. Isn't that usually how it goes?
Well, do you think they're going to go into New England and beat them? This would be the game, probably.
Yeah.
If they beat the Patriots and they're 6-2 after they just lost their running back and their star offensive lineman, that's a pretty incredible start by our guy, Robert Saleh.
It would be. If your enemy's enemy is your enemy, then Commanders Colts is interesting because they both hate Carson Wentz. They play each other this week. Carson not playing. His replacement, Matt Ryan, not playing. So do with that what you will.
Is he Heineke?
If Carson was playing, I'd be very interested. That he buys Jordans in the color of the team he just beat?
I mean, what does he have? Like 3?
I mean, the shoes he was wearing were cool because they beat the Packers and they look like Oregon Ducks Jordans.
Yeah. I would say this, though. I don't own a pair of green shoes. Hard to mix and match. It's easier when you're an NFL quarterback. You don't have to match. You can still probably look good. You're skinny, tall. That's a hard shoe to match. Wouldn't you agree? The green and white.
Yeah. And also, there's something to be said about, putting last week's game behind you, but you show up celebrating last week's win.
Are you allowed to hold on a little longer when you're not the starting quarterback? I don't think
Maybe.
Carson Wentz could do that.
He gets a $125,000 bonus for every win. Heineke.
Jesus. I kind of like Heineke to go on a little run.
Checking his game log real quick.
That's one of those that teams have no problem putting in the deal. And then once, I guess you're cool with paying $125,000 for a win. You would gladly do that. But it's one of those that even when you're Heineke and you sign it, you realize I could easily not have a start. But then all of a sudden you're like, I could have 10 starts. If I just win 5 of these, I could fucking bank another $800,000.
Yeah.
It's bad math. It'd be 7, but 6.
What happens when your team just needs a tie in order to get some weird tie break?
Wasn't that Jimmy's thing? Doesn't Jimmy get an extra $300,000?
Jimmy makes good money. Giants Seahawks. We talked about that game. Sunday Night Football, Packers Bills. Monday Night Football is Eagles Browns, and the 6-0 Eagles are hosting the 2-5 Pittsburgh Steelers.
What night?
That's not all the games, but that's it's not a night game. That's just a Sunday afternoon game. Or is it a Sunday morning game? Steelers Eagles is after Sunday afternoon. So it's actually oh no, I take it back. That's a 10 a.m. Sorry, that's a 10 a.m. What do you think the line on that game is?
Do you know that this is Rodgers? He's never been this big of an underdog in his life.
What's their number? 11.5?
Yeah.
That's got to be wow, I did not know that. That's a great stat.
He's only been as a starting quarterback, I think, a bigger underdog than 6 points 3 times in his career. And one was last year. Remember when they short week on the road against an undefeated Cardinal team and all those injuries and his whole team was missing and he fucking won. Honestly, kind of like the Packers this week because every human is going to pick the Bills, think they're going to kill them. And you're going to look up. Now they might lose and the Packers might just end up sucking and they end up being a 6-win team. That could, but if you tell me that they're a 9-8 or 10-7 team, would it totally shock you if all of a sudden it's a tie game in the third quarter and the Packers are just having their kitchen sink?
It would not totally shock me, but I mean, It would not totally shock me. I mean, it's terrifying.
Easier for the Bills to overlook that the Packers just aren't that good. If they were 5-2, I would, this line would probably be like 4 or 5, and it'd be like, yeah, I'd like the Bills. But I just wonder if Bills coming off a bye, you're like, God, this Packer team sucks. You
just don't take an Aaron Rodgers team lightly, though. You don't get that look past.
I just kind of like the Packers.
He's an all-time great quarterback who still got it. Put it that way.
I got a 3-team parlay for you.
Okay.
It is the Lions. It is
Lions plus 3.5 at home against Miami.
3-team money line parlay. I'm gonna go Lions. I'm gonna go
against the Dolphins.
I'm gonna go Patriots, and I'm gonna take the Packers. Pays about 22-1.
Wow.
I feel pretty good about just Lions and Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
That's about 3.5-1.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get really bold, you add the Packers.
It's 3.5-1. Is that what you said?
Just the two teams. It's
3.5-1.
Well, because the Patriots are favored, so they're like minus 120, and then the Lions, are 3.5 point at home. They actually played. I watched a lot of that Cowboy game. They were right in that thing till like the fourth quarter. It was not. The final score looks bad, and if you flipped it on at the end, everyone's smiling and laughing. They're basically clowning them. It was a tight game, and I think they had 6 turnovers. The Lions 6 turnovers.
I thought it was 8. Was it 6?
Well, it might have been 8 total. I think maybe Goff threw, and maybe he threw 3 and fumbled. Maybe he accounted for 5. Wouldn't shock me if it was 8 because a running back fumbled on the goal line. It had to be pretty high.
I'll tell you right now. I just pulled up the box score.
8 feels like an NFL record.
Yeah, 8. I feel like I heard 8, but then I said it out loud. And where's turnovers? Interceptions, 2. Couldn't have been 8. Where the fuck is fumbles? Oh, 5. So it wasn't. So it was 2 picks, 5 fumbles, 3 lost fumbles. Oh, you know what it was? I think the game had 8 turnovers because it was 6. No, that's not right either. The Lions had 5 fumbles. They just lost 3 of them, but geez.
So they turned the ball over 5 times. They lost 3 fumbles and 3 picks.
Correct. 5 turnovers. Yeah. Is that what you said?
5 turnovers is a lot in an NFL game. Don't you think?
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Wow.
What was the final score on that game?
24-6.
What was the score at halftime?
It was 14. No, it was 6-3. The Lions.
I'm telling you, the Lions were right.
Yeah, the Cowboys scored with 2 minutes left to touchdown.
The game was a lot closer than this. If you just look at the final score,
the Cowboys scored 2 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
I like the Lions this week. You know the Dolphins do not score a lot of points.
John, I watched the Dolphins the other day, as you did. Tyreek is fantastic.
And Waddle is too. And Mozart, if you just watch like 3 plays, you'd be like, God, this offense, speed everywhere. They average like 18 points a game. They struggle to get over 20. Love the Lions this weekend. And I'm just betting on Belichick. I love that parlay. Just parlay those 2 teams. If you want to get bold at Rodgers. Just because that takes the odds to a different stratosphere. Because they're almost 5-1 underdog at Buffalo. So you could argue it's pretty stupid.
All right. Anything to rattle off here?
Have a great weekend.
We got Thursday night football. College. Those of you watching live, if you're after the fact, you might miss it. But we got Utah-Washington State football game tonight. That's a good game. So I don't know if it's any Friday college football games, but
World Series.
World Series starts Friday.
Go Phillies.
Go Phillies, man.
No one wants to see the Astros win another.
No,
World
but
Series.
not a soul. Not a soul. I don't even know an Astros fan.
Would be kind of cool for Dusty Baker. That's the
tough part for me. Is like Dusty's cool.
Yeah, he's cool.
I've talked to Dusty many times over the years. When his son played at Cal, he'd always come out, and I'd be with JT, so they'd talk snow. And he came back for that. This is what he came back for. Once handed Russ Ortiz the ball as he walked off the mound, thinking it was the World Series was wrapped up. And then the Angels came back, and it was not wrapped.
It's weird. Like this isn't totally his team. Like he came in last year in weird circumstances, but he's been there long enough. Like this is kind of a squad. Like he does have the heavy favorite in this series. You know, you got the best team in the big leagues against a team that didn't win 90 games.
The
and
Phillies
he's got home field advantage.
Don't the Phillies feel to you like the Giants teams that won World Series?
Feel pretty good.
Just like not the best team in baseball, not even close, but just mojo. The environment's crazy. They do have star players. Doesn't it kind of feel kind of like that?
Yeah, I mean,
I get some Giants vibes from the Phillies team.
They have more pop. They have more pop than all the Giants.
Yeah, I mean
teams, dude.
but they're less random with some of their guys. But the Astros, I just watched. I did not think the Yankees could beat them going into that series, and the Astros have so much.
The Astros, I mean, are almost minus 200 to win the World. I mean, they are heavy favorites in this thing.
They look good. Their bullpen's good. I've not watched as much of the Phillies, but I'm rooting for them.
You kind of like the Phillies as an underdog story?
Why not? I mean, I like I said, I haven't watched a ton of the Phillies. I've watched a fair amount of the Astros, and they are so confident right now. They are just cutting it loose. But it looks like the Phillies are too. So
6-1 Phillies to win 7. 6.5 to 1 win in 6. You get some pretty good odds on the Phillies to win.
I think the Astros bullpen. I could not tell you a lot about the Phillies other than their star players are awesome. But
Kyle Schwarber MVP 14-1. What if he hits like 6 home runs?
You don't even need to say hit 3. I mean, what did well, I guess Pablo hit 3 in one game, didn't he? Verlander.
And they swept them, didn't they? So it
was hard to you weren't going to get 4 games out of somebody. Did Pablo win the MVP that one?
Yeah.
So I mean, Schwarber hits 3 home runs. They,
Verlander 9-1 to win MVP. If he wins 2 games and they win,
series would have to go a little longer, but yeah, he would come out of the bullpen at some point. That's likely. I would not be surprised by that if it's a long series.
What position does Aaron Nola play? Is he a pitcher?
Yeah.
And it's his brother that's the hitter on the Padres. You see that? Like his brother plays for the Padres. You see his dad was at the game.
No, I didn't see it. His dad was
brother.
No.
Did you know his brother was in the big leagues?
Yeah, I forget his first name, but I just knew that. I knew there were 2 Nolas.
I didn't know he had a brother. I just knew like this Phillies guy's good, right? Like a legit pitcher.
Yeah.
Hawkins was telling me like they're like LSU guys.
Oh.
Like, I mean, they're not just like little engines that made it out of some little town. Like these guys are blue chippers.
They're usually not.
No.
When you get brothers, it's usually not like they were both 5'8" grinders. Like both of them?
Yeah. You're like, where'd you find the Watt brothers? Wisconsin, first rounders.
Yeah.
The lines, pass rushers in the Big Ten.
Where's the tight end brother from? Would he go to Wisconsin also?
Yeah.
Austin Nola. There you go. All right. On that note, thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Holler at us, Tito's pictures, tag us in them. And yeah, you know where to find us all over. Share this with people you love and
people you hate, but don't hate too much.